Shapiro, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. I love this question somebody sent in.
Oh, no.
If a cyclist is struck by a car while the cyclist is riding at night with no lights, no reflective devices, do you charge the motorist anyway?
You would charge them, well, it depends on the situation. But if the motorist is at fault or they did something to contribute to it, then yes. If they're not at fault, it's going to be specifically the cyclist that caused it. So every situation is going to be different. I have certainly laid light charges against a cyclist where it was a contributing factor. I've laid charges against pedestrians who walk out into the road. So it really is the investigation wherever it goes, then we lay charges that are appropriate.
I think people assume that you will always make the car and the driver of the car, the person at fault. And I think the aggressive cyclist community thinks that's a reasonable way to go.
Well, it's not a reasonable thing. There are people who are affected. People say the victim is the person who is hurt. Well, the victim is also the person who's going to go through therapy for having hurt someone else in a situation that was well or far beyond their control. I had a pedestrian investigation years ago where someone decided to cross the street directly in front of a bus stop, but nowhere near the signalized crosswalk, which was less than 30 feet away. And they caused they had been seriously injured, but they were the cause of the collision. And they were charged. And they were shocked when they got the ticket in the hospital, but they did get a ticket. And you have to protect the person who is truly doing everything right. And sometimes it's the pedestrian, and sometimes it's not. So, there's that. My take on that.
All right, here's a question about the roundabout. And this is pretty common in some countries, but not here. And so sometimes we're a little confused about the roundabout. So this person writes, if you're in a roundabout and a pedestrian is crossing, can you stop in a roundabout or do you continue circling until they have crossed?
If the pedestrian is legally, well, first of all, it depends on the roundabout. There's some large roundabouts, and it would be unsafe for you to just come to a stop. But in a situation where you can stop safely, you're not interfering with traffic, certainly stop and wait for that pedestrian who's legally there. And that's where we come into things. Pedestrians have a responsibility to also make sure that they are not causing issues when they step out into the road.
All right, we'll take your questions at 416-872-1010, 416-872-1010, toll free 877-518-5151, 518-5151, and 71010. You can text us, 71010. We'll get into maybe in the next segment some of the questions that have been coming in on TikTok as well, but let's go to Steve from Toronto. What's your question, Steve?
Well, good morning, guys. Jerry, love your show. My question, I'm curious. Why an influx of no right turn on a red sign? I'm seeing that all, especially in southern Etobicoke and stuff. And it used to be like a Quebec thing or a Montreal thing. And I'm curious what's going on there. Yeah, if they might have an answer.
I don't have a good answer. I'm not part of the planning thing, side of things. But it must be because of a flow of traffic or pedestrian traffic, looking out for the safety of people.
The producer was saying, but I'm thinking, wow, this is like southern Etobicoke. Like I think Jerry might know, 6 Points Plaza area and stuff like that. I'm thinking, there's nothing there. So it just caught my eye. I've noticed that, so I thought, check it out.
Sometimes
I love
you look
at the show too, guys. Love the segment.
Thanks. Yeah, Sean, sometimes we look at signs, we look at rules, and we think, I don't understand who this made sense to.
Yeah, and it's bigger brain folks than myself who may be looking at future.
Not necessarily.
Well, I'm thinking that it may be something future. They may say that the population's going up and they're going to have issues, so they're trying different things.
All right. Do you have to, as a police officer, report every stop? We get a question here from someone who says, I don't know why they realized it, but it says, my wife was pulled over, but the cop never wrote any notes on it.
So we stop cars. We put it over the air to tell the dispatcher that we've made the stop. We tell them who we're stopping for multiple reasons. One, things may go sideways. We want a backup to know where we are. So there is a record from that perspective. But if it's simply to say, you should turn your lights on and then we let you go, there's no requirement to make detailed notes. We might put the vehicle stop in and say we stopped the car at this time at this date, but no detailed notes of what was said or what was done because it was minor in nature. If there's something where a warning or a ticket's issued, obviously there's going to be a paper trail for that.
All right, here is Terry from Mississauga. Terry, what's your question?
I wanted to know about those it looks like a kid's push scooter, but it's not. They're electric. And I'm always in Toronto and I see people weaving in and out of cars on these things. Are these things allowed on the road?
Funny you should bring that up. E-kick scooters, electric kick scooters, have become very popular. They're not legal in Toronto. Essentially, there is a pilot project that was introduced to Ontario, and there's rules that people who use these have to conform to. One of those is they have to use them in areas that are legal. Now, Toronto is completely against the rules. You can be ticketed. It's a $60 fine for using these devices here. But in Mississauga, it's been adopted and it's legal. You have to be 16 years old. You have to make sure you can't go over a certain speed. There's a whole detailed list of things that you have to adhere to.
I see them all the time in Toronto.
Yes, and there's an education component where people are not understanding that it's illegal, and part of what's happening now is telling people that they shouldn't be on these devices, and some choose to continue to use them anyway, and they're eventually going to be getting charges.
Have you actually charged people with that?
I have not, but I understand people have been charged.
Okay, because I'm just wondering what the reaction is. I'm going to bet that a lot of the people are not doing it because they're out and out scofflaws. They probably don't know that it's illegal.
It definitely is an educational component. I was driving back from a meeting across Richmond, and there was a young lady on the sidewalk, which these things are not allowed to be used on, period. She lost control. She almost hit a pedestrian. She fell over, and when we helped pick her up, we also let her know that it was illegal to operate that in Toronto, but she had no idea. They're sold in stores. It's very confusing.
Sure. Somebody writes, I'm probably wrong, but I can't think of a situation where a pedestrian is legally in a roundabout. I don't think that's what the question related to. It was the road you were going to turn onto out of the roundabout was being crossed by a pedestrian.
In a crosswalk, yeah.
Yes. That was what the question was about. Here is Angelo from Toronto.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Angelo.
Go ahead with your question.
I drive a motorcycle in the summer. Sometime come to a on-demand light that will not change from red to green. I can see it cycling because the countdown goes down, but the light stays red. What am I supposed to do?
Well, you got a couple of options. We talk about this all the time, even on this show. You can either make a legal right followed by a legal U-turn where it's safe to do so, or you can get off your bike if it's safe to do so and hit the crosswalk or the signal change button. The other thing that people tend to do is relocate your bike. If there's somebody who comes up behind you, ask them to get a little closer to utilize the weight of the vehicle to trigger the sensor. And some people add rare earth magnets to the bottom of their motorcycles to help trigger the sensors.
That.
Yeah, there's no perfect answer.
The take a right turn and then a legal U-turn is probably your best option,
that's probably
Angelo.
the best thing.
Yeah,
that's what I
and I
tend to do.
mentioned, I think last time you were with us, I mentioned that what I do, because this is an issue when I'm leaving at 5 a.m. and there's no traffic around, is I take a little detour through the gas station where I normally gas up. And you told me, I'm going to make sure I understood correctly, that I can do that so long as the people at the gas station don't have a problem with it.
Well, exactly. I've seen locations, and since our conversation, I went back to where I thought the signs were, and they're no longer there. They used to have trespassing signs saying for customers only, and but really, it's generally not an issue. The problem is when everyone starts doing it, it becomes such a problem that police are called.
Yeah. Well, the guy at 5 o'clock in the morning, if he even notices me, I notice he just looks at me like, okay, whatever. He's not exercised enough to try and make an issue out of it.
You may want gas. You may change your mind when you see how much it is.
Well, you know what? You can't change your mind. When you need gas, you need gas.
This is true.
Yeah, but I probably would say, look, sir, I'm a customer. I'm here because I'm always here, and this is where I always buy my gas. Can we make an agreement here? And probably it would be okay.
We're probably overthinking it.
Coming up in the next segment, Sean, I want to ask you for some TikTok questions. We'll take a few more calls. And here's a question that somebody sent in that I'm fascinated to hear the answer to because it has to do with the whole new situation and license plate stickers in Ontario. Can I scrape the old stickers off my license plate? That's coming up on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
Awesome. We're going to put Jerry in the background while we chat for a few minutes. Boy, TikTok was having some issues. I don't know why, but the Rogers network was not activating for me, and we kept on freezing. We've moved over to Wi-Fi on the cell phone, which generally doesn't work, but somehow today it's working. So I thank the Wi-Fi gods for that. Q is joining us. Hey, Q, how's it going?
I fixed your bit rate. That's what happened.
Why would the bit rate be doing weird things? But that's
I don't know.
cool.
It was on the yellow when I was on Restream.
Oh, but it wasn't the Restream. Oh, Restream was freezing. I was talking, this is just a general bad day for internet because the actual telephone, which has nothing to do with Restream, is what was having the issues this morning because it was TikTok. Very cool. Okay, so as you may have heard, we're on the air with Jerry Agar, News Talk 1010. It's his show from 9 to noon. He does it Monday to Friday. We jump in to help him out and answer some questions and do some of what we do by, joining up and talking about traffic safety, traffic law, and such. If you want to tune into them, you can, but you can ask your questions here. We're going to look at some, because he wants to know what you guys want to know and talk about. So let's have a look at the questions, and we'll bring them back. Let's see here. We have questions about flashing green lights. I think that's a good one to address. That's the volunteer firefighter stuff. Radar detectors. He'll likely enjoy that. We can talk about radar detectors. Okay, and then so you guys are in the chute. You're going to get your questions answered on the air in Toronto with News Talk 1010. Let's see here. Truck turning right and I turning left. Who has the right of way? I would suggest you wait for the truck, because if you guys meet in the middle, the truck's going to make a rearrangement of your vehicle. It's not about being right. It's about being smart, because you know what the outcome will be if you choose to be right. It could end badly. How many times can I go in a roundabout? There's no limit. There's no counter. Obviously, don't interfere with traffic. But if you want to go for a roundabout and burn gas for no reason, be my guest. What are we talking about here? What is this? We can't. I don't know. Oh, what just happened here? Merry-go-rounds. Kayla Jacone is coming in from YouTube with greetings and salutations. And Pro Football Craze from Twitch says, good morning. Good morning to you. Thanks for coming by. I love it. We get all these. We have so many regular viewers. I mean, really regular viewers. I don't know if they're taking Metamucil, but they're regular. But I'm bummed. Sorry. How old are you? You look 25 years old. I was 25 years old when I joined the job, close to 25 years ago. So if I truly look, actually, I think I look better than I did when I joined. It's weird. I'm doing the what's his name? The button thing. Maybe not. But I appreciate it. Thanks very much. Hi and good morning from Stephen. To Stephen, because it's that whole ditto. Any plans for my vacation? Yes, to not work. That's the big thing. Actually, I've got vacation coming up. This is the one of the 3 last shows, which may turn into 2 last shows because I may have to take Friday off. But right now, vacations are planned for the end of the month. Looking forward to it. Let's see here. Camera light turns yellow and I'm driving through. Yes. You drive through. Depends at where you are. There's a whole concept of stopping. You see, yellow or amber lights mean stop. They don't mean accelerate. So if it turns yellow while you're about to enter it and you pass the point of no return, you continue through the intersection. If you have got enough time to stop safely, you stop, because that's what a yellow light means. You can be charged for going through an amber light. Not by a camera, though. Can I get an M1 with a G1? Yes, not at the same time. It's 2 separate tests, but you can possess both learner's permits at the same time. We're 60 seconds or less than 60 seconds away from joining News Talk 1010. So give us a few and we will be back with Jerry. I'm going to put him into the foreground. We'll listen to some commercials, I imagine. Or silence, one or the other. Oh, I make myself laugh. Is that good or bad? I don't know. What do we have here? Okay. Looking at, looks like we're good. 20 different screens here. Okay, I only have 3 screens. But I should actually plug in our Instagram camera. We have 2, so the deal here is I have 2 telephones, both operating iOS and both with the 2 platforms, Instagram and TikTok. And they are dedicated because you can't use what we use for all of the other platforms. And did I mention, it is Nick. The other platforms are YouTube, Twitch.
Hi guys, here we come.
We're good. Okay. We're ready to go.
The Jerry Agar Show is on the iHeartRadio Talk Network.
It's good to have you along. Hello to everybody on TikTok as we join the TikTok traffic cop, PC Sean Shapiro, traffic safety programs, traffic operations. He's on TikTok every day at Traffic Services, and we join in on his show once in a while and make it a co-show. Sean Shapiro, what are people asking you about on Twitter today?
Well, first thing that was asked about green flashing
TikTok,
lights.
rather, I'm sorry.
That's okay. They don't care how you call them. They don't get offended so easily. The deal is flashing green lights. If you see them in your rearview mirror, what should you do? Something we don't see in Toronto very often, but in many of the areas around Toronto have volunteer fire departments. Those volunteer firefighters have green flashing lights in their dashboard because they're going to come running to a call. What do you do when you see them? Well, good people pull over for them. It's a courtesy. It's not a requirement under the law, and they can't go through red lights, and they can't speed legally, but it's a courtesy. Get out of their way. They're on their way to help somebody. So that's the message behind that question. And then there's questions about radar detectors. Are they legal in Ontario, and what are the fines and consequences? So the deal with radar detectors or anything that interferes with the police being able to measure your speed is that it's a $170 fine. I believe it's 2 demerit points, and there are search and seizure authorities. So if we have belief that you have one in your vehicle, we can search it. Most people tend to, just hand it over because we seize it and then you have to go to court. But those who say, no, I don't have it, well, we take our screwdrivers out and we can go looking for it. And that's when people really pull it out and hand it over.
What makes you suspect that they have one?
Well, it's a funny thing. So there are radar detectors, but we don't even need to get into that.
Detector stopper.
But we can get really deep down the rabbit hole on that.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing is when you are traveling, there's 2 ways. There's jammers that will project a speed, suggesting you're going one speed, but we measure it and see what the jammer says, and then we see you going faster than everybody else. Well, that's a clue. Additionally, when we trigger the radar or laser device and you suddenly hit the brakes, yeah, that's a clue as well. So very often we pull people over that are dumbfounded as to how we know, and then we charge them.
All right. Now, somebody asked us, can I scrape the old stickers off my license plate?
You can, as they're no longer required to be displayed, at least if your vehicle qualifies. So light trucks, passenger vehicles, motorcycles. Certain vehicles, especially commercial or over 3,500 kilos, I believe, require the stickers. So check before you peel. And the biggest problem is people don't realize you still have to renew. It's free to renew. You do it online or in person. You don't have to pay anything, but you do have to provide your updated mileage. You have to make sure that your insurance comes up in their system as valid. So there's a couple of things to do. And if you don't do it, you can get a ticket for having expired license plates and permit. And if you're traveling outside of the province, as the story we heard last week about someone who went into Quebec and got a $500 ticket for having an expired plate. Not a sticker, a plate.
Yeah, because that person had not renewed. I have the receipt for having renewed. I renewed for 2 years. Look, why wouldn't I? It didn't cost me anything. But you know what I also did? This is for my motorcycle because I'm going to take a motorcycle trip into the U.S. coming up in a few weeks. And a cop in Iowa isn't expected to know what the situation is in Ontario, might see my expired sticker. So I actually printed off an article about it.
And I've suggested exactly that. Print your receipt and print your article. And additionally, some people have said they want to keep their stickers on for nostalgia. They're going to have that 2022 sticker to warm their hearts in 20 years. But the deal is, if you do go in the States, someone's going to look at that, and that's going to make them think that it's expired, as opposed to just assuming that there's no stickers required in Ontario. They're basing their law on their observations, right? They're going to go based on that hunch.
Yes.
Why create a situation where you're a heat score and getting attention you don't need?
Here is Victor from Toronto. Hi, Victor. What's your question?
Yeah, good morning. I got a speeding ticket on a photo camera, and there's 2 images on it, and there's one of them clearly shows 2 cars side by side. One of them was mine, and the other one's with my license plate. So how do I know if I was speeding or the other person was speeding, or do we both get tickets?
I couldn't tell you if he was issued a ticket or not. I can tell you that those.
I was issued a fine for $90.
I understand, but what I'm saying is I can't speak to what the other person did. Were you speeding? If they have a picture of your license plate, then you were the focus of that picture, and yes, it would have triggered on you. Additionally, we don't run this program; it's City of Toronto, but you have the option to take it to court and hear evidence. But they do have photographic evidence. Additionally, there's no points involved in this against you. It's just against the vehicle which you're responsible to pay. So you can take it to court, but generally speaking, I've not seen much success in these.
But there are two cars side by side, so how do we know who was speeding?
Well, the radar basically takes the faster of the vehicles and focuses on that, and there's computer software involved in that, and I don't know the inner workings of the photo radar system because that's not something the police administer.
Yeah, but Sean, he's making a good point. I mean, they could both come into court and point at one another. So I wasn't the one speeding; he was speeding, and you caught me up in this thing. The guy was passing me.
Certainly, but I imagine two things are, and this is me speculating, that both cars would have received individual tickets, my assumption. Additionally, the radar system picks up the fastest moving vehicle, and I can't imagine that they would be choosing the slower one for the photo.
Yeah, but they're both in the photo, is what
I
you're
understand.
saying. So it's a confusing situation.
Certainly,
He's
you could
gonna
take
have
it
to
to court
deal
and they'd be able to explain it, but that's not
Yeah.
a system that we administer. So I don't know the inner workings of how their software identifies. I just know from radar in general, the fastest moving vehicle is what we measure.
All right, here is Norman from Alliston. What's your question, Norman?
Oh, good morning. Good morning, gentlemen. Yeah, I have two collector cars. One is a 1970 Mercedes and a 78 Thunderbird.
Nice.
Neither car has been registered, has been on the roads in about 7 years. Both are ready to go now. What do I have to do with respect to the fact it doesn't need a sticker anymore? Can I just take them out and drive them? Or
No.
what do I have to do with it?
You're in a situation that I'm about to become in, because I have a motorcycle that's in my garage that hasn't been plated or at least renewed since 2017, since I was in a motor vehicle collision myself and couldn't ride it. So you may be in a situation where you have to go into the ministry to renew, and it's a free renewal if it won't do it online. So you could first try it online, but if your insurance isn't yet active on those vehicles, it will bump out of the system and won't let you do it. So try online, and if it will not work for you, go into an MTO office, Service Ontario, and they'll be able to fix you up.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
No
Thanks,
worries.
Norman. I was just sitting here jealous because he has those cars.
They're beautiful cars, and I'm going to be on vacation for a couple of weeks, and there's something coming into Toronto which is all about cars, the Bubblegum 3000, and they're doing something.
What?
It's Bubblegum 3000. I hope I'm saying this correctly. It's a rally that starts in Toronto and goes down to Florida, and I'm not going to be here when they are going to be here, and I would have loved to have seen these beautiful cars.
So it's a group of vintage cars that get together and travel from Toronto to Florida.
All sorts of different cars. It's a
Okay.
big fundraiser, but check it out. I was just reading up about them today because it was news to. Oh, it's Gumball. I said Bubblegum. It's the Gumball 3000. Thank you, Q. I was corrected.
Okay. Somebody wrote and asked, what's the penalty if you nick a jogger with your car because the jogger insisted on running on the road instead of the sidewalk?
Well, if you hit a pedestrian that you should have given way to and given space for, you're going to be responsible for hitting a pedestrian. There's no nick; it's hit or not hit. So yeah, you're going to be likely investigated. It's a collision with a pedestrian, so it's a full investigation. Now, granted,
Even though, sorry, Sean. Even though this person who wrote is technically correct, if you're jogging, get off the road.
well, depending on where you are, if for instance
there's a
no road,
sidewalk.
if you're going to be on the road, you're supposed to be running counter to the flow of traffic. You shouldn't be running in the same direction. And this is really specific for pedestrians where there are no sidewalks. Obviously, if there's sidewalks, we prefer people to be on the sidewalk. But if you're going to be on the road because there's no other option, then you should be running in the opposite direction so you can see what's coming. That said, drivers can't just hit you and nothing. Now, if there's no collision, there's no injury, no damage, it may not result in charges or even a report, but you're obviously responsible for that.
Thanks, Sean. We'll talk again.
All the best.
Coming up, can a mayor, is it okay for
Always a blast. Okay. Now we get to change channels. I get to bring in our friends who are going to be watching us on Instagram. Hang on a second here. I think I got everything. Let's power up that amp. There were some interesting questions today. Okay, camera number 2 here. Are you jumping in today? Are you busy? Maybe. Okay. Here we are going live on. They're going live here on the Instagram. Very cool. Okay. So now that the morning craze is over, we are able to focus in on TikTok. Let's get into it. And let's start with Vision Zero, because when we do this stuff with Jerry, we skip Vision Zero. And I know that they don't like it when we skip. they feel bad. They go, why are you skipping us? All right, Division Zero Enforcement Team, who are they? They're a group of officers who are focused on changing driver behavior one ticket at a time. Today, they're doing that in 11 Division and 55 Division. Those are neighborhoods of Junction, Weston, High Park, Ronson's Vales, or Roncy, we call it Roncy. The Beaches, Riverdale, Danforth, East York. That's the neighborhoods, or some of the neighborhoods that are policed by those two divisions. And we are in that area focused on changing driver behavior. We're looking for speeders, aggressive drivers, distracted drivers, impaired drivers, anyone who's putting the vulnerable road users at risk. Because those are the behaviors that drivers choose to engage in that lead to serious injury and death. Stephen says, you're on early today. Yes, we're on early whenever we go live with Jerry Agar. We used to do, so here's the deal. This show, which is Ask a Traffic Cop, and I'm Sean Shapiro from Toronto Police Traffic Services, this show is all about you. So we used to take up a half an hour of the regular Q&A to talk to Jerry. And yes, we talked about stuff, but it was all his viewers. Well, we didn't want to cut into your time, so we actually made separate time. So we have the Jerry Agar time, and then we let you watch and throw in 2 cents, but then we jump into things in full speed when we get into the 10 o'clock hour. So if you're watching on TikTok, if you're watching on Instagram, please hit the screen, double tap, triple tap, quadruple tap, tap until you can't tap no more. And that helps tell the algorithm that you like us. Right now we're at about 3,500 likes. That's awesome. And we really appreciate it. We don't get paid by TikTok for doing this. We do this as a service to you because we want to help educate and dispel myth and rumor. So this is all for you all the time. We do it Monday to Friday from 10 to 11. But this is the last week we're doing this for a couple of weeks because I'm going to be on vacation. And I've promised my family I'm not going to work. A couple of vacations ago, I actually streamed from home every day, or at least a couple of times. But I'm trying to disengage, actually enjoy vacation. So I made a promise. I got to keep it. There's a couple of maybe ifs that I could, while on vacation, do a couple of things. But yeah, for the most part, we're going to be radio silent. Okay. We talked about this with Jerry Agar. Do I have to pull over for flashing green lights? Oh, and by the way, if you have questions, Q&A function, that's the question mark in the box. Put it there. That's how I see it. Otherwise, it's going to be our moderators. I don't look in the chat itself, although we should do a chat-only day. I should turn off Q&A one day and just hang in the chat because I think that would be a good thing to do. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, where else? Twitter, actually Twitter we got to talk about, but YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, I see anything you put in the comments, I'll see it, we'll chat. Like Akela Draconis just did, coming in from YouTube, said, good for you, I'm going into Manitoulin Island in 3 weeks, or for 3 weeks, that's awesome. So let's get back into the Twitter caveat. The deal with Twitter is if you are watching on Twitter, we love you, but we can't actually see your comments. So if you make comments, you're talking to yourself. We'll look at it after the show, but we can't see it live. There's something going on with the connection. So I would much rather have you in the conversation than not. So come over to YouTube at Traffic Services Toronto Police, where you can get into the conversation live. Are you comfortable talking about your crash? I am comfortable talking about my crash. I am. I want to say most of the way. I'm better than I have been. The best I've been since my collision. So I'm nowhere near where I was in the beginning, which was rough for me. I lived on the couch for like 3 months. But essentially, the collision was that I was heading back to the station after completing a minor collision report, and as I was traveling south to the station, somebody pulled out of a gas station parking lot, and as a result, we met in the middle. I ended up going for a short flight. I always say the takeoff wasn't so bad, the landing sucked. And I had injuries that I never would have thought were as serious as they were. Well, first they told me I was losing my leg, so that was pretty serious. But then it turned out I wasn't losing my leg, and that was, something to celebrate. What I'm getting at is that minor breaks and minor bumps are great, but the long-term injuries and the consequence of having injuries where your body basically doesn't feel good for a long time, it's amazing how long it can take. So, one of the reasons I'm so passionate, I was passionate about collisions well before becoming involved in a major one, is that it affects people and it changes their lives. My life was obviously changed by it, and I feel for those that are involved, especially when it's not their fault. But I'm a big advocate for following the rules, because slower is safer when it comes to speed limits. Keeping the phone down is safer for everybody, and I don't want anyone to have to go through what I went through. And there are so many who have gone through worse. Mine was minor in comparison to the horrible, tragic collisions that we investigate every day. But yeah, it's not fun. Who can use bike lanes? Great question. Electric scooters? ? So the deal is this: if you have an e-bike, e-bikes can be used if they're pedelec, if they're not scooters. Can be used in everything except cycle tracks, from what I understand. I hope things haven't changed, and Aaron's not here for me to double check. But it used to be that bicycle lanes and sharrows could have anything as long as it was classified as an e-bike. Now, electric kick scooters in the city of Toronto, they're illegal. You can't have them anywhere, so they can't be in the bike lane either. It would be an interesting ticket to charge someone for a $150 fine for being in a bike lane when they're not a bicycle, because they're not covered. I'm going to have to talk to some people and find out if we can charge electric scooter operators, e-kick scooters, who shouldn't be in the city at all, but they shouldn't be in bike lanes either. So that's an interesting concept. Thank you for bringing this up, because we just had that epiphany, and maybe we can clear those up for the cyclists who are supposed to be there. E-kick scooters not allowed in Toronto. Not in parks, not on sidewalks, not on bike lanes, not on roads. You get the drift. Okay. What's we got here? Okay. Did I cover everything there? So, pedelecs can be used okay, so let's go back. Pedelecs are the ones that don't have accelerators. They can be anywhere bicycles can be. But the ones with the throttles or the electric bikes or electric scooters, they have some limitations. City of Toronto biking guide tells you everything in the City of Toronto. It'll go into much greater detail and a better resource than me right now. Can I put a license plate cover on my car? The answer is no. Legally, you can't. You can't obstruct or cover the plate in any way, shape, or form. That includes tinted or clear visors. It includes license plate frames, whether it be decorative or from the company that sold you the car. And by the way, why would you want to advertise for a company that sold you a car, that took your money? Unless they're paying you for it, take that. Well, even if they're paying you for it, it's illegal. Take it off. You don't want the $110 ticket. What is this? Any way to increase the TikTok live word limit? I wish. Actually, you know what? I've never asked. I could call TikTok and say what's up, but I don't think they're going to. They've done lots of stuff for me. I really appreciate TikTok and their support of this channel, but I don't think there's any way to do it. You can DM us, and it's not an instant response, but I do respond to DMs. And if you do want to have longer conversations in the comments, make sure you put part 1, part 2, part 3, so we can track it. Respond to your first one. Sometimes I get like a half a sentence, and then I have no idea what they're talking about, and I realize that there are 500 comments somewhere else in the stream, and you never get an answer because I can't find it. You get lost in the comments. What I would do is comment and then comment on your comment, and then at least it keeps it somewhat together. And if you list it part 1, 2, 3, we can actually try and make sense, because it doesn't always show up in order. Motorcycles weaving in and out of traffic on the 400. Aren't they horrible? I'm a motorcycle guy, and I don't like motorcycle riders who weave in and out of traffic. Now, depending on how it's being done, weaving or speeding through traffic at a marked departure from the speed limit, to stunt driving. But if it's just changing lanes because they're impatient and not very good at riding, they may not be breaking laws, depending. So what happens? You're kind of stuck with them. They very often, there's the same riders who end up crashing and getting severely injured. So if you're a rider, please don't be a squid. If you're a driver, please know that we have some squids around. Try and give them space. You want nothing to do with those folks. What is this? Will they put in the system I want in a car meet? Will they put in a system? What system are you talking about? I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't even know why I selected it, because I knew I didn't know what you were talking about when I selected it. Someone wants to know if you can keep a 6-centimeter knife in my car. Can I have a 5-centimeter knife in my car? Knives are cutlery. You want to have a butcher knife. You want to have a hatchet. You want to have a sword. Depending on what they're for, they may have a purpose. If it's a weapon and you're keeping it in your car as a weapon, well, that's going to be an issue. You're not supposed to carry weapons anywhere. But if it's because you open envelopes, you're allowed to have tools. Like box cutters are tools. People have them in their pockets. It really depends on what your purposes are. And I want to tell you that if you have something like a knife, whether it be 1 inch, 5 centimeter, or 6 inch, regardless, you use it as a weapon, you're going to get charged for using it as a weapon. What is this? Will car meets be recorded in the system PC in patrol car of the attendees? They may. Car meets that have illegal activity being conducted, you're in a public place, and there's no reasonable prospect of privacy. So if you're entering, you may be recorded. I don't know what there is going to happen, but certainly it wouldn't be against the rules to do that. Not that there's rules with making a license plate or recording what's happening. There could be surveillance. You never know. Don't do stuff that's illegal, and you don't have to worry about it. I need water. Excuse me. Filling up my water. Oh, yeah. There should be a song. Is there a song for filling up the water?
No, but I can get a song stuck in your head. You want that?
No, I'm good, thanks. Q was throwing songs out yesterday, and it ruined my day. No, it didn't ruin my day, but it impacted it negatively. We had some terrible songs stuck in my head. But I can tell you the funny story about my kids. My wife decided that we needed to make sure that we had them washing their hands for the appropriate amount of time, so she had them singing Happy Birthday from start to finish when they washed their hands. And I didn't know. So every time they go to the washroom, they start singing Happy Birthday. I'm like, what is going on here? It was very funny. And very funny. And it is now the best part of my day when they wash their hands singing Happy Birthday in stereo, slightly off key and not timed well. But it's beautiful. Yes, I love it.
There's a 4-part question. I'm going to read it to you so you don't have to look for it.
Okay.
Got a speeding ticket in the mail. Going to apply for a police course. Will they be able to see the record?
So speeding tickets by way of speed camera is not issued against you, the driver. It's against you, the owner of the vehicle, if you are in fact the owner of the vehicle. So it's not part of your driving record. You may not have been the person operating the motor vehicle at the time. At the end of the day, don't lie. Admit to the fact that there was a speed camera charge, because it's going to be part of the investigation. And if you hide it and it finds out, then you're lying. And that's much worse than just coming clean. Hopefully it's not something ridiculously over the limit, and mistakes happen. What do we got here? How many times can I go on a roundabout? We covered this. There's no specific counter saying get out of the roundabout. Although I imagine you get dizzy. And then I wonder if you could become impaired by dizziness. I don't think you can. Well, you can, but it wouldn't be impaired driving. What do we have here? What if someone caught drink and drive? Is that deport? It's criminal. So could you be deported for impaired driving? I'm not an export person. I don't know about deportation. I imagine I've actually had people deported that we found out were on overstay for an expired license plate. Like they've been here for years living illegally, and they were deported, not because of a criminal event, just because they were here too long. So it really depends. And I don't know. Wait, did you just say you're 50? No, I'm not. I'm soon to be 48. 58. Wow. No, 48. I'm close to 50. I'm closer to 50 than I am to where I was when I started on this job. 65 in a 40 zone? 25 over is actually quite significant. I don't know why I keep adding 10 years to dates. It must be some kind of mixed wiring in my birthday brain. Okay. Can I have what is this? Can I have exhaust on my car supplied by dealers? I don't know where you're getting your dealers, but so exhaust systems that are aftermarket aren't instantly illegal if you buy something that meets the requirements of the law, which bugs people a lot. If you have a legal exhaust and it meets the requirements, it's a legal exhaust. If you buy a straight pipe from a dealer just because they sell it to you doesn't mean it's illegal. And yes, you could be charged even though a dealer sent it to you or sold it to you. You have to follow the law. And mufflers are required, and aftermarket mufflers have to meet the requirements. Okay.
Boop the snoop.
We are being asked by Q to hit that screen. Tell people that you like us by tapping the screen and sharing this live with anyone, even the people you don't like. They'll like you more for sharing it. Really, they will. It's a party trick. The deal is that we want to share traffic safety information, traffic law information as much as possible with as many people as possible. Why? Because we want to save you money. We want you to avoid tickets. We want you to avoid the negative experience of becoming involved in collisions or causing collisions or, what is this? Oh, I don't know. Q's sending me messages. The holder is, look at that. It is. And it's bugging her. See this? This is the iPhone mount for the other device, and this is causing Q to...
Because it's covering your name tag, and that's also not straight either.
Well, it's straight. It's just I'm standing differently. Okay. So we covered that. I hit the wrong button. Okay, let's fix that. We are imperfect people here. What can I say? I know. My wife will tell you that, and she'll argue with you that, no, in fact, I am perfect. But I admit that I'm not, at least while on camera. Okay. What happens if you're caught past curfew? Your mother may punish you. I don't know what kind of curfew we're referring to. You got to be more specific. What percentage of tint can I add to my windows? So tint is a wonderful question to which we hear all the time. Tint is something that you can have on your vehicle. We don't suggest it. Many people like it. And okay, fine. Here's the deal. 30% light blockage on the windows left and right of the driver, nothing on the windshield, and as dark as you like on the windows behind. Warrior 7567, who obviously isn't a warrior at all. Did you mute him or should I mute him?
It's a keyboard warrior.
Oh, he's a keyboard warrior. I got it now. It makes way more sense. So the deal is he put up lots of little piggies on the screen. Okay. So yeah, windows in the rear can be as dark as you like as long as you have a clear view with a mirror to the rear. But the deal is that if it's beyond 30% light blockage, your car is considered unsafe. If there's anything on the windshield and your vehicle is seen, it's unsafe. We take your license plates, you get a tow truck home. What else can I tell you about that? If your vehicle is manufactured 2016 or older, or is a 2016 or older, regardless of when it was manufactured, I don't know, then it's going to be allowed to have a 3-inch tint strip across the top. That's from the top of the windshield down to the PS1 line or whatever happens first. And that's the only time you can have it. If you're 2017 or newer, you can't have that. Why? I don't know. Somebody told me it was because of sensors. I don't know the rule. I think they just made it a hard line in the sand where you can't have it anymore for whatever reason. What is this? Is there prison time for acting as a police officer? I don't know if that's supposed to be a dig or if you're actually, if someone's actually just driving around impersonating a police officer. Yeah, impersonating a police officer is a criminal offense. You can be charged. I don't know what the sentence would be, but potentially. I mean, certainly we had people who have impersonated police officers actually gone out and killed people. So not something that is taken lightly. It's a serious offense. What if I buy a car with no ownership? What can I do? Well, how do you buy a car with no ownership? You can't. You need the ownership document to buy it. If you're buying a car with no ownership, it's probably stolen. So what I would suggest you do if you have a vehicle that the owner doesn't have the ownership for is go with them to the ministry. Go with them to the ministry and let them reprint it. It's a $30 fee. They have to get a vehicle, a used car kit anyway. They're going to have that in order to sell it. So just go with them to the MTO and get it taken care of. Never buy a vehicle without a appropriate documentation. And for anyone who's buying a vehicle, forget with the paper. Go with them to the ministry, have it transferred with them. Go into a ministry office, get it done there. You as the seller wants to have it off their name because guess what? If I buy it and never transfer it, the seller is still responsible for it. It's still their vehicle on paper with the ministry. That's a problem. I've taken vehicles that were abandoned in the middle of roads that were then impounded, and thousands of dollars of impound fees were then billed to the person who sold it. And they said, well, I sold it a year ago. They never transferred it. You don't want that liability because it is you that the tow company will be coming after and your credit, which will be affected. So there we go. If you witness a violation, should you report? Depends on what the violation is. Did someone cross the road against the light? Did someone fail to stop at a stop sign? Or did someone commit a murder? Like, it depends on what the violation is. Obviously, calling the police or making an online report is fantastic, but in many cases, we can't lay charges unless we can identify the driver and the place, date, time, location. Simply making a report may not do very much, but you're welcome to do it. We do tend to catch people eventually. So, I mean that in the nicest of ways. I don't want you to waste time calling every time somebody does 10 over. We'll catch them or we won't catch them. That's going to be on us. But if it's something like an impaired driver, 911, that's an emergency. So we want to make sure people are safe. What happens if I die before I pay my ticket? I imagine, and actually this does happen, we've had things come up in court where it's being announced that the person is no longer with us, and they've dropped the charges. Family members have come in with death certificates and said, my spouse or somebody died. Hey, if you don't know who I am, my name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police constable with the Toronto Police Service here in Ontario, Canada. I go live on social media answering traffic and police questions, and I said that all in one breath. Is smoking while driving legal in Ontario? Yes, as long as you don't have a passenger under the age of 16 inside the vehicle with you, at which point it would be illegal. And of course, if you have anybody under the age of 16, Smoke-Free Ontario Act kicks in and you can get a ticket. But another caveat is nothing illegal. You can't be smoking crack while you're driving or marijuana, which is a legal substance, just not while you're driving because that's impaired driving. But you can smoke things that are legal for consumption, like tobacco. But don't smoke. It's bad for you. Do people really smoke still? I smoked in high school. And I gave it up. Actually, I know the date and time and where I was, which I imagine most former smokers, ex-smokers, I can't stand smoke now. Can't be near it. what is this? Are you allowed to launch off red with to speed limit? So launch control not permitted for the road, but what's going to happen if you launch to 60 kilometers an hour? You're going to create a situation where nobody else knows what you're doing, and you're creating an issue. It could be a stunt driving charge if you chirp your tires, if you do a burnout, if you what else? If you create a situation where people are diving out of the way because they don't know what you're doing. You can't do something that's so egregious or so out of the norm that it creates an issue. So depending on the observations of the officer, it could relate or could translate into speeding, or I should say racing charges. Don't do it. Can you request footage from when you were pulled over? So when you're going to court, this is a great question from Chasey. Chasey, why can't I not remember how the best way to pronounce your name is? You got to give me phonetics again. The deal is that you can, if you're charged with an offense, you can request in disclosure, you can request the footage. It may not have anything to help you, but you can request it. And it's not always available. For instance, when I was on a motorcycle, it was before body-worn cameras were a thing, and there was no footage to provide. So we can only provide what we have, but you can always request it. Chassis. It's chassis?
Yeah. Here's a 3-part question that was in the chat. There's a bike that's going, There's a bike that's going in an opposite direction of traffic and a car going in an intersection, making a turn, hitting the bike. Who's at fault?
Well, if the bike is going opposite, but they're in a contraflow lane, then it would be legal. If they're not in a contraflow lane, then they're just going opposite. Then they're in the wrong. Drivers are not expecting you to come out of a one-way the wrong way. So in that situation, charges may be laid to one or more parties. It could be the cyclist alone. It could be the cyclist in conjunction with the driver, who's still responsible for everything they do when they're driving. They're still responsible for ensuring the movement can be completed safely. So I would assume, in this fictional scenario, that it could be both parties. And I hope that answers your question. Can you go to jail for vandalism to a vehicle? I don't think they're handing out a lot of jail time for vandalism, but it depends on what your record's like. It's a criminal activity, so a criminal charge, if you're convicted, they determine in court what they're going to give you. And what do we have here? Morning, is it legal to warn about speed traps? We talk about this all the time, and I think it deserves this. If you're going to do something like that, and warn people so they don't get a ticket, you're contributing to unsafe roads. The reason we give tickets is to make them safer. We want people to slow down. Slower is safer. And getting them to avoid a ticket doesn't make you a hero. It means that you're helping keep the roads unsafe. They will temporarily change their driving behavior, get away with something, and return to speeding the next block. And you know what? They could kill someone on the next block, and it would be on your case. On your fault. On your fault? I don't know where my sentence structure is going out the window. Why is speeding, and I will put in quotes, allowed on highways, 120 plus? It's not allowed. It just may be that the officers aren't there, or there aren't enough of them to stop everybody all the time. We have to witness it. We have to measure it. We have to be there to do something about it. And when we don't have enough officers, we can't. So people get away with a lot of things. We want them to slow down. We want them to slow down because they want to be safe, not because we're there to police them. Policing, this is education. We're doing this. We're having a conversation. We're friends. We want to get you the message that you shouldn't be doing this. If you can adjust yourself and govern yourself that you don't break the law, there's no reason to have to pull you over. We don't want to be the people who just pull people over and issue tickets. That's the last thing we want to do. And it's to make the road safer for everybody. But we don't want to give you a ticket. We'd rather go for coffee. So please don't speed, and don't fall into the whole concept of this pack mentality. Well, if he's speeding, I can speed too. Because I'll tell you, I set it and forget it. My cruise control is set at the speed limit, no more, no less, and I ride it. And this morning, an 18-wheeler passed me. And that was interesting because I was doing 90 and they were doing at least 104, 105-ish, maybe 100. We'll say 100. Maybe they weren't at the limiter, but they were in a 90 zone. I was doing 90. They were doing 10 over to pass me. And that wasn't cool. And oddly enough, I wrote down, I dictated to my note app the name of the company that was written on the side of the door. So I'll be contacting them later, along with the other company that passed me on the other side doing about 30 over. I make notes. They may be voice notes, but they're notes. And for the spammers, go away. We have some people who are spamming on TikTok in particular. What do we have here? So, it's not allowed. Please don't speed. I want to make it a movement. I want to give awards for folks who don't speed. And sorry, I mentioned the fact that there's not enough police officers to stop everybody. It's true. And you know what you could do? If you're interested in becoming a member of the Toronto Police Service or any police service, check out their website. Ours is tps.ca/careers, and we're currently hiring police officers. If you think you'd make a good candidate, check out what the requirements are. See if you've got what it takes to join our job. And it's a job that has many options. You know, you join as a cadet, as a cadet in training, become a police officer. You could get into so many different specialties. It is something that is ever changing. No 2 days are the same. I've been doing this for over 20 years, and I love every day. I'm a little bit weird. I accept that. But I love every day of what I do, and I plan on being here for a long time. So come work with me. Okay. What is this? When will you force people to have self-driving cars? Well, that's I don't think that's coming anytime soon, because there are no self-driving cars currently legal on the road in Ontario. There was a pilot. That pilot is no longer operational from what I understand. And I imagine it's going to be many, many years until they're even an option, never mind forced onto anybody. I hope that we're always going to be able to drive, because I like driving old cars. I don't like driving new cars. New cars are less cool than old cars. tps.ca/careers. Oh, wrong button. Here we go. Back to here. And boy, Instagram. You working? Instagram. I don't understand it. What do we do?
There's a question from Instagram.
Okay. There's a question from Instagram? How do I not see it?
It's in the chat.
Oh, that's why. They're not using the Q&A function. Use the Q&A function. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, if a small passenger vehicle gets in front of a large commercial vehicle, then slams on their brakes, causing the large vehicle to rear end, who would be at fault, bearing in mind the commercial vehicle had... Oh, that's a duplicate. The vehicle has no longer a point of return.
Well, someone who intentionally brakes after changing lanes, they've created a dangerous maneuver. I would even suggest that might have been an intentional act. The person who slams on the brakes for no reason after not giving a reasonable amount of space would be liable to some degree. The problem is going to be proving it. So I hope all vehicles, all owners of vehicles, all users of vehicles, even if you got to Velcro it in there, get a dash cam. Get some evidence supporting what just happened, because there are people who are victims to collisions. There are people who go out and intentionally create collisions for insurance scams. Protect yourself. Get the best evidence you can. Get a good quality dash cam. I don't endorse any one particular brand over another. Just make sure it works. And then don't break the law, because then you're just recording yourself breaking the law and you give us evidence. It's really bad for you. But, don't break the law and you got nothing to worry about. In that situation, again, trucks need space. They need lots of space. We have small vehicles that get in front of trucks. They don't even know they're there as they drive down the street. We had a dump truck last year. Somebody in a Mini Cooper did a lane change last minute, and the truck driver, who was responsible for some things, but, as they were driving down the highway with a Mini attached to the front of the car, Google that, because I think there's video footage. That person broke the law when they did what they did. They caused that collision. So they were responsible to some degree. The truck did other things that were not so good after the fact. But it's a bad day at the office when anybody is in a situation with a big truck. So avoid that. What is this? Point of leaving the scene charged like a witness. Witnesses, we would ask you to stop. I grew up thinking you had to legally, you were obligated to. Well, if you're involved in the collision, yeah, you're obligated to. If you're a witness, you don't have to, but we would really appreciate it. At very least, stay until the police officer attends and say, I got to go, but here's my contact information, or pass your contact information to both parties so they have it so police can contact you. It could mean the difference between a party who is guilty being held accountable and an innocent party being incorrectly held accountable, because sometimes the difference between a charge and no charge, or charging the right people, is the third-party independent witness. So we really appreciate it when you stick around and make yourselves available. It makes a huge difference to the people. And think about it this way. If you were involved in a collision, what would you want someone else who was a witness to do? You pray for that witness. Yes. What is this? Thoughts on making an Autobahn? No speed limits. I don't want to see a day in Ontario where we have an Autobahn. The Autobahn is a heavily policed street or roadway, expressway. Most of it is 80 to 130 kilometers an hour. And yes, that is faster than what is legal here, but it is not faster than what is actually being driven here. We see people doing 130 all the time. Why do I bring this up? If you break the law and you're caught there, bad things happen. First of all, if things go bad and the outskirts where the high speed limits are unlimited, oh yeah, bad things happen there too. There's still fatalities. There's still stuff. Now, people always say, statistically, there's fewer collisions and deaths on that road. Okay, statistics aside, it's not automatically safer because it is unlimited speed. This is not how it is. Now, also, the vehicles that are traveling at those speeds tend to be better cars. There are also vehicles operated with people with more qualifications with the driving. They're actually good drivers. That's not to knock all drivers here, just that we have a low bar for passing the test. There, they have a high bar. Additionally, there are many, many rules about how you can pass and what you can do. And I was just watching some videos about the Gumball 3000, and I watched some great footage about, I guess the founder was talking about cars that were kind of racing at 200 miles per hour with a black Mercedes, I think it was. Maybe it was a BMW. Anyway, they all got arrested or charged because they were not following the rules on the highway, even though they were allowed to go a certain speed. There's certain things you cannot do. I got to watch that video again to pick up the details. But the Autobahn isn't the answer. Driving slowly is the answer. And I say that because slower is safer. You get more reaction time. You can avoid issues. And you generally don't get anywhere faster by going faster. I know that is a mind-bending concept. But for instance, that big truck that passed me, I ended up in front of it later on. Like, they didn't get anywhere any faster. They just passed me for a moment because they didn't like doing the speed limit. But they had to slow down for a curve when I passed them, and I was just doing a constant speed. What is that, tortoise in the hare? Yeah. Oh, apparently some bozo in the chat is promoting unsafe driving. I say bozo because if you're trying to promote something that is dangerous, I'm being disrespectful on purpose. Please don't do that. We're all about traffic safety here, not stunting and silliness. How can a cop keep up with the Lambo? Here is a lesser known secret. We don't have to keep up with them. We can go ahead of them. Why? Because we have a magical device called a radio and lots of friends. So it's amazing how roads can become closed, exits can be closed. We can direct someone on a specific path and then arrest them. And that's exactly what we would do. If you're running away from police, you're now in an arrestable position. Not a good way to end your day. Also, impounds. Impounds suck, right? You lose your car. If we're just talking stunt before criminal, you're looking at losing your car for 14 days, a license for 30. You get to pay for that. Now, maybe if you have a Lambo and you didn't rent it, you can afford that. And some people would say it's no big deal, but it's a big deal. Your insurance is going to go through the roof. And if that's before any criminal charges for dangerous driving and evading police, because flee from police is a serious offense. Is police foundations a good in college a good for police? I added some letters there that weren't in the question, but we'll go with it. So it's good if you don't have any other options. I don't say that is the best option if you have others, because making yourself a unique candidate is a good thing. If everybody went and got police foundations and we had no variety of education, we'd all be pretty boring. We'd all be the same. But let's say, and I always go to this, accounting. I am not an accountant. I'm not endorsing accountant. I know some accountants that are pretty cool guys, maybe my cousin. But aside from him, you bring a unique set of utilities and skills to the table. We have financial crimes. What an amazing superpower it would be if you could understand accounting ledgers in a proficient way as a professional. Well, then I imagine you find your way to financial crimes unit because you have skills and abilities that set you apart from everybody else. Let's see here. Does drinking and driving only refer to alcohol? Well, when you say drinking and driving, you are referring to alcohol. We say drive impaired or impaired driving. Impaired operation is the charge. And it's not limited to alcohol. You can be impaired by drug or by alcohol. Or both, for that matter.
Can I have a police siren on my car?
No, you may not. Police sirens are actually something that are illegal to install. There's specific charges for even having them. So, yeah, you can't have them. If you were to have a show car that you were putting it on for the purposes of, let's say you had a replica police car because it was an old 19-something old police car and for shows, it's something you could completely disconnect, but you couldn't have it connected and on the road. That would be illegal. Can TPS seize my dash cam to investigate a crash? Yes. Generally speaking, people will provide their memory card or camera. If there was a refusal to it, or in the event that the person was not able to hand it over because they were incapacitated, then it could be seized as evidence because we want to make sure that evidence was protected. Okay. Do you need to change a car seat if you're... Oh, yeah, very good point. Do you need to change a car seat if you're involved in a wreck? Thank you for bringing this up. Child safety and protection is of my highest priority. It's one of the things that's really... I'm a dad, so that makes it just... After becoming a dad, it doubled down on everything kid-related. I was already, big on protecting kids, but things change when you become a dad. Or a mom. So what's the deal? If you're involved in a collision, even a minor one, disclose it to your insurance company. They will likely replace them, regardless of anyone was in them. The reason being is the protective properties of most of these seats are a foam, and that foam is a one-time use, same as helmets. You drop a helmet, even if you weren't in the helmet when it was dropped, it's garbage. Got to replace it because you cannot bank on whether or not it'll have the same protective qualities. Also, why is there an expiry date? Because that foam rots, becomes brittle. And what happens if it becomes brittle? It doesn't protect you the way it was designed to. So yes, always try. Well, I would try and get your insurance company to replace it. I was in a collision almost 6 months to the day after my on-duty collision. Both my children's car seats were replaced. Okay. Will you see electric vehicles, police vehicles in the future? I imagine so. We're already seeing hybrids being introduced. We don't have full hybrids, but other police services in our GTA do have them. So they're coming. It's just a reality. When will they be full-time electric? I don't know about that, but who knows? Thing is, we run our cars 24/7. I don't think we could take the time to, put a car out of service for 12 hours to charge. Maybe they charge in less time. How long does it take to charge a Tesla? I don't know. What is this? If the driver of a company vehicle received a stunt charge, will police seize and impound the company vehicle? Yes. So if any vehicle that is involved in a stunt charge will be seized regardless of who owns it, period. Yeah. Interlock. If you have an impaired driving charge and you end up getting involved or a conviction, I should say, and you end up in an interlock program, which requires you to blow, you have a requirement for interlock to be in a vehicle equipped with an interlock in order to operate it. So you rent a car where you take it out for service for an hour because you got to get lunch. You're driving a car that's not interlock and you have an interlock condition, car gets seized. Is it 45 days for that? It might be 45 days. I'd have to look it up. In any case, it doesn't matter whose car you're in, you're losing it. And I've taken cars from people who say, but my dad's got to get to work. I'm like, yeah, should have thought of that before you went off and drove impaired or stunt drove in it. Sucks to be you. Tesla's charging about 15 minutes according to Google. Come on. 15 minutes? No way.
No,
There's
it
no way.
doesn't. So Tesla Model 3 charges at 8.5 hours at 220 volts.
Okay.
Just saying.
Richard Gandhi says 30 minutes at a fast charging station to charge a Tesla, and it's continuously getting faster. So they're changing the technology to make it faster. And good morning to you. I just saw your Facebook good morning message. I have a number of friends with electric cars, and most of them are charging overnight. And with the new electricity dip or reduction in price, I guess that's the way to do it. One of my friends has free charging for life on his vehicle. Oh, Richard is Sebastian. That makes total sense to me. Why wouldn't I have guessed that? Hi, Sebastian. Okay. What do we have here? What is your favorite car? Car? I don't like. Well, if we're saying car as an automobile as a general title, then I can go with that. If it's car, like I'm a big guy. I'm 6'5". I don't like cars at all. I like SUVs, trucks, motorcycles, but cars they're too small. Even the big cars are too small. Okay. What do we got here? Hussein wants to know. Okay. I'm a newcomer to Canada and I have an international license and they told me I can use it for 2 months, but after I get the Canadian license, my question is, I used my international license and I got a G1 license and I am waiting for the G full test date. Can I still drive with my international license until I get my full license? Okay. We covered this, I think, yesterday or the day before. No. As soon as you have a G1 issued, that is your only license. You lose your ability to use your international license the moment you possess an Ontario license. You have 60 days to apply for a license. But once you have the license, you are no longer able to drive on anything else. So if they told you you could, they misinformed you. You would not be insured. You would not be able to operate that without a licensed driver beside you supervising who has at least 4 years experience. So not the answer I'm sure you were looking for, but it is the one that is correct, and I don't want you to get in trouble. Okay, speed cameras. Yesterday at the end you answered not just over 1 kilometer, but people in my neighborhood say that they've received them. Do the rules change depending on where the camera is placed? Yes, but I mean that by way of jurisdiction. City of Toronto does not use 1 kilometer as the threshold. Other jurisdictions might. So if you're outside of Toronto, it could be 1 kilometer. I have no idea what they would charge. But in Toronto, it is a couple more, possibly maybe. But don't speed. Just don't speed. That's the only thing I can really tell you. I don't know the hard and fast number. I know it's not 1. That's for certain. But I can't tell you a specific number. because then people would just drive to that number and say, but I'm allowed, because they don't ticket you until that number. That's not the deal. Was this? Well, they're only in front of schools. So the question from DLH Toronto is maybe in front of schools. They're only 1 kilometer, but all of the speed cameras are over in front of schools. Mind you, there's 25 new ones that may not be in front of schools, but it's all of the City of Toronto cameras are in front of schools. They're all in school zones. That's why they're there. That's how that came into play. How can I prevent theft of a catalytic converter? If they want it, they're going to get it. That's the sad truth. People weld in all sorts of things, and people just cut through those things too. I don't have a good answer for you that is going to provide you with a sure thing. Sergeant Murray Campbell has some beliefs or suggestions on the topic. He is far more learned when it comes to the mechanical ins and outs of cars. Tomorrow, I imagine he'll be back, and you can ask him. Do school zone speed limits apply after or during after school hours and weekends on holidays? It depends. Whatever the sign says is what it is. If you use if you look at the signs, that is the guide. If it says Monday to Friday only, it's Monday to Friday only. If it says when flashing, it's when flashing, and it depends on the municipality. The neighborhoods before the amalgamation in Toronto had slightly different signs. New signs that are erected will all be the same. But yeah, don't speed in school zones. Whatever the sign says is what it is. Is it illegal to drift on private property? That wasn't the one I wanted to play. I got to erase that one. I never want to use that. So when 2 buttons get pressed instead of 1, it is illegal to drift on private property, yes. As of September 12, 2021, the HDA was amended so that stunt driving laws can be charged on private property. I hit my iPad. There we go. Didn't fall.
You're knocking everything today.
I am just, yeah, it is what it is. I'm in vacation mode. I'm chill. I'm just like I'm loose. Yeah. Okay. Like Gumby here. The deal is that you can be charged, and drifting is stunt driving. So you would lose your license for 14 days. You would lose your vehicle. Sorry, you would lose your vehicle for 14 days. I always do this. And your license for 30. Don't do that. Okay. Is there a speed limit for an ambulance? So here's the deal. The HTA has an exemption. The exemption in the HTA is for speed, and it applies to police, fire, and ambulance. There are different conditions for police than there are for ambulance and fire trucks. Fire trucks, they can only race to active calls. Ambulance has the addition of they can go to active calls for service and to the hospital. And police have a wider breadth. They can go to emergency calls. They can do anything that is covered under lawful execution of duties. What's a good example of that? If I'm on the highway and nobody around me is breaking the law, and I want to see what those guys over there are doing, I can exceed the speed limit to get to those guys up there. Because if I just sit where I am, the scenery doesn't change, and I'm not being effective in the use of my time. I need to look for everyone who's violating up ahead. So that's one example of reasons to exceed the speed limit. Now, people get confused. They think if our lights aren't on, we're not going to a call. That's not the case. Very often we do not activate our emergency equipment because it is safer. I know it doesn't make sense, but it's true. When we turn our lights on, people do some weird and wonderful things, like stop directly in front of us, and if we're not really quick to the brake pedal, we're going to cause a collision. So those lights, if we don't want you to specifically move out of our way or stop, we're probably not going to use them. Every situation is different, but it's all about the safest option. Okay. What's the tolerance on speed trap cameras? We had that question earlier. It's not something, that I know the exact number on, and every municipality can change the rules for them. They belong to them. It's not a police-controlled environment. Those cameras are set by the municipality. What is this? Are lanes restricted to transport in a 3+ lane highway? Depends on the highway, and it depends on what the sign says. So in the 401, there'll be signs likely posted to keep transport trucks out of lane 1. But there's no blanket policy for all roads to keep them out of the left lane. It's something I grew up thinking was there, but it is not true. Okay. What's the rule for a cracked windshield to be safe? To be safe, it has to not have a crack in it. So if you have a crack in your windshield, it is deemed unsafe and you should get it replaced. You can have a ticket issued for obstructed view, and it really depends on what things look like. If it's a tiny chip, get it fixed. Get it fixed before it spreads. When it becomes something that spider, what's it called, spider webbing, cracking, whatever, it's spreading, and it will spread and can spread quickly because you're constantly putting pressure of the wind on your windshield and so on and so forth. at the end of the day, when light hits that, it could be blinding to a driver. It is an unsafe thing to drive with. Isn't the racetrack private property, though? Very good point. There are two exemptions. There's actually three. So there's two exemptions that are dealing with private property. Specifically, tracks and go-kart tracks are exempt from the stunt driving rules. Additionally, any event that's permitted on public property or public or private property that's associated with IndyCar or essentially they have a permit. So if it's an actual Indy event like the Honda Indy, that is permitted. It's exempt from the stunt driving charges. And obviously the government can issue a permit to a movie company to do things that would be otherwise considered illegal when it comes to driving anyway. Mobile ad vans with TV moving ads distracting. Is it legal? I don't think it's illegal. I don't think it's smart. I don't like them, but I don't think it's illegal. And I can't say for certain. I just say I don't think it's illegal. I have seen them. I think they're horrible. They're usually doing 3 kilometers an hour in the club district. Do we still have clubs? Do people still go to clubs? Is that a thing? I'm old. I don't know these things anymore. What is this? Chef Mike wants to know something, but I can't see. There's another Chef Mike. I'm still doing the speed limit in the left lane, and someone comes up behind me flashing. Well, you're in the left lane. Get out of the left lane. Let the, I want to say bozo again, who's speeding, pass you. If you're not actively passing, if you're just riding at the speed limit, stay in the right. That's what you should be doing. Okay. Can we install dim LED blue lights under the car? A different way of asking the same thing of the underglow. Underglow is not specifically illegal. It is illegal to project light in directions like the front, the back, other than white or yellow to the front, amber or red to the rear, and it depends on the strength of those lights and the color and so on. So blue light is a restricted color. We don't suggest using it anywhere other than not on your car. Yeah, it's a police color. It's also a snowplow color. They're restricted and specifically listed in the HTA, so don't do that. Now, if you do have light that is projected down only, you've installed it in such a way that the bulbs are not visible, projecting any light to the rear, and it's only reflecting off the ground, I would say that you're probably okay, but probably doesn't defend you in court, so you might have issues, and different jurisdictions may interpret the laws differently. Also, Ontario law is going to be totally different than everywhere else. So make sure that you know what you do. I would suggest only using underglow when you are on private property. Oh, some weird stuff's going on with the cellular phone stuff today. Is there a storm outside? Is there something happening? Maybe a tower fell down. Who knows? All I know is I'm hearing stuff and I don't like it. What is this? Oh, I didn't see Chef Mike's part 3. I can't understand the context of the, I thought you were in the left lane. Now you're talking about going in the right lane? No, I've lost the context. I'm doing the speed limit in the left lane, okay. And someone comes up behind me flashing and I don't move back to the right lane. Am I at fault? At fault for what? You're preventing someone from passing intentionally. So potentially there could be charges laid. I wouldn't be the one to lay that, but I imagine that could be laid. I've heard of police services charging people for unnecessary slow driving, even though they're doing the speed limit, which I think is ridiculous, and I don't think it's lawful, but I've heard things suggesting that they're doing it. So that's a different argument altogether. Now, unnecessary slow driving, people say often to me, well, why don't people ever get charged for that? Well, when I was driving home yesterday, guess what I saw? I saw a pickup truck overloaded with cement that was doing 60 kilometers an hour on the 404 northbound, and they had their hazards on because that made it all better. That vehicle should have been pulled off the road. They should have had to call for a friend to offload and make their vehicle safe, and they should have been ticketed for unnecessary slow driving and for being overweight for the weight of the vehicle. Now, what did I do? I'm a police officer. I called the police so that this vehicle gets stopped and charged. Now, beyond that, I can't say whether or not they were charged, but at very least they were reported, and hopefully they were charged and taken off the road because it's unsafe. Very often we're asked, well, why didn't you pull them over yourself? Well, I'm not in a police car. I'm not wearing body armor. I wasn't in a uniform. I wasn't about to have that interaction, but I did stay with them long enough to get the information to the police so they could do something. And moving on. You didn't answer my question, but I did move right. Okay, Chef Mike, obviously I'm missing the point of your question if I didn't answer it because I thought I covered it all. Do cops actually care about loud cars? We care about enforcing the rules. Obviously, we will either like or not like the sound of your car as a person, but at the end of the day, the general public at large, yeah, they don't like your car as much as you do, and they don't want to hear it. I had a great conversation on the podcast that we were recording yesterday with the folks from 13 Division, one of whom was a traffic complaints officer, and talked about the communities that are affected by the loud pipes of vehicles that are coming by. Residential areas being used as a cut through to get through traffic, and how that affects people who are working from home and having babies sleeping in the afternoon. It's just not cool. So your car, if it's too loud, should be corrected, because it's either going to be a driving behavior issue or it's going to be a mechanical issue. And if you're not meeting the grade as to what's required of you, you deserve a ticket. And hopefully you change your vehicle back to factory so it doesn't make that obnoxious noise. And I appreciate that sometimes cars sound cool. And cool sounding cars that are driven responsibly tend not to make unnecessary noise. But unnecessary noise charges can come from your tires squealing, your horn honking for no reason, your stereo blaring, and of course, your exhaust system, whether it be by default or defect or behavior. What do we got here? What if I see a driver change lanes back and forth? Because they're signaling each move intentionally and they're doing it safely, or because they're swerving all over the place and they're probably drunk. If you think they're impaired, call the police, because that is an emergency on the road and needs to be dealt with. If it is something where they are just changing because they don't know where they're going and they're lost, that could be a justified thing to do. I don't know where it would be justified, but you got to call if you think it's something that is a danger. After how many hours of alcohol can we drive? It depends on your consumption and your rate of, what is it, the rate of, I can't remember what it's called. The rate in which you, what is the word? Tip of my tongue, can't remember it. Anyway, everyone deals differently. I can't give you a specific number. If you're going to drive, if you're going to drink, make a plan that does not involve driving, and simply don't assume your math is correct, because you may find yourself wearing handcuffs. I did answer my question. Okay, I got it. Chef Mike and I are on the same page now. What do we got here? Does my dog require a seatbelt when traveling? This is a great question, and we've talked to the SPCA. We've talked about this with the Toronto Humane Society on a regular basis. I shouldn't say a regular basis, when we spoke to them last. And both will agree that they should be tethered or crated in the back seat of your vehicle. We want them as far away from your airbag as possible, and tethered for various reasons. One, we don't want them jumping on to not metabolized. We want them to stay where they are for their safety. We want them away from the airbag. We want them away from you so they don't interfere with your ability to drive. And in the event of a collision where the windows could become broken, and we don't want them getting out of the car and wandering the highway to get hit. So bad things can happen with our puppies, our pooches, our cats. I don't know, what do people transport now? In any case, their safety and your safety. Also, driving with one in your lap is actually careless driving, or at the very least, driving while crowded. So don't do that. I see a lot of people driving around with animals in their lap. That's a lot of tickets to issue. I'm sorry. I need some water. Water. 8 minutes. Okay. How much is gas today? Too much. That's what it is. It takes $200 for me to fill up my tank. It's terrible. Is it legal to have a baseball bat in my car? It's not illegal to have a baseball bat in your car if you're someone who plays baseball. If it's baseball bat that's being stored for use as a weapon, know that weapons are something that you can't use, right? You're going to get charged for using a weapon. And depending on the context of the investigation, why you have a baseball bat, you may find yourself getting charged for something. But if you're a baseball player, go crazy. Hope you have a ball and a glove to go with it. What do we hear? In cleats. Do you have to have cleats? Gotta have the whole outfit. What do we got here? Q, what's going on with you while I scan through questions looking for something to answer? I'm not going through things we just talked about. There's a lot of duplication here.
Someone wanted you to know that they work security at Vaughan Mills, and a guy brought a pet tarantula.
Pet tarantulas. And now, do you restrict pet tarantulas from being at Vaughan Mills? I used to frequent Vaughan Mills. Vaughan Mills was a good place. Years ago, I used to be there.
Can I use a laptop in the passenger seat?
No.
Like as a passenger?
Oh, as a passenger, sure. Now, the driver can't be looking at YouTube on your screen, because then they could get charged for drive while, screen visible to driver type thing. I have to remember the wording on that. But essentially, you could use it, but the driver can't be paying attention to it, or they're distracted driving. Here's a good question. Chassis wants to know. Chassis. I'm never going to say this right.
Chassis.
Like chassis of a car? Or you just gave me the word association that I can use forever. Chassis. Okay. Can police drive a semi without an AZ license? So we do have many police officers who are licensed to operate a vehicle that requires an AZ. But in emergency situations, police officers can operate any vehicle with or without a license. It's one of those emergency things that we have coverage for. If we have to move a vehicle out of the way, we can do it. Okay. Become a cop. What is that? Oh, I get notes. I'm getting funnies from Q. Is driving school now mandatory in Ontario? No, but I really wish it was. There is a reward, an incentive to getting professional driving instruction, and that is that it knocks your 1 year down to 8 months before you can get your before you can get your G2, sorry. So from your G1 to your G2, if you have a professional driving course, you can take the G2 test in 8 months. Otherwise, you have to wait a year. You still have to wait a year before you can take your G. I'm out of practice with talking about graduated licensing. Okay, what is this? Is it legal to lane filter on a motorcycle? Lane filtering, there's confusion about this. Lane filtering is generally when traffic is not moving, and lane sharing or lane splitting is when traffic is moving. Lane splitting is going to be a hard no. It's very easy to justify that as a unsafe practice and careless driving. Lane filtering, your mileage may vary. I would suggest you don't do it. It's an unpredictable thing, and if you cause a collision or contact or damage, you're going to be responsible. Would you get charged? Some officers are going to say it's careless and dangerous, and others are going to say it's okay. So your mileage may vary, but it's not something that is legal or specifically expressed as something you can do. What do we got here? We've been talking about it a lot, so as we go, the discussion continues. What is this?
Funny one.
Funny one. I like funny ones.
Not funny, chassis, I'm sorry. Helmet comes with a GoPro mount from factory. Is that legal?
The mount might be legal, but the GoPro, once you put it on, won't be, because it's now changing or modifying the helmet. I hear what you're saying. It's still a modification and attachment that goes beyond the minimum things. Off-road vehicles, it doesn't matter. That's going to be something else. I see lots of people doing it. I've seen different means of attachments, but you can't mess with the shell. So I've given the answer that you can't change the shell. So it depends on where the mount is, maybe. Yeah, I can't give you a definitive. The standard answer is no, it's not legal. I'd have to look at it because essentially once you put the issue is, and the reason why we've been saying it doesn't make it makes the helmet illegal is because on impact, that device that you've attached to the helmet is going to snag. It's not going to glide. It's going to cause there to be a quick, potentially a quick snap. And what snaps when your head moves quickly on a helmet? Your neck. Not good. We don't want you to get hurt. But it's changing the helmet. And even if the helmet was designed with the mount there, they've only taken it halfway. They haven't put the camera on. We've heard of cameras being integrated into the shell of the helmet. That would be far safer. But when you put that big box wherever that mount is, so send me a picture. Send me on Instagram. I'm available at VoiceOver Cop on all the social media platforms, including I have on TikTok where you can watch me eat ridiculously hot food. But the deal is that send me a picture. I'd like to see which product you're talking about, because it's hard to. I'm talking about vaporware here. I don't know what we're talking about.
Chassis on Discord, so I want to see that helmet too.
Oh, it's chassis. Okay, I send it, please, on Discord. We have a Discord community. If you want to join that community, you should. And check us out. Where are we going to send them the link? I guess I have to post it.
I'll post it.
Oh, Q's going to post it, but I'm going to put. Oh, here. You can screen capture it once we post it, and then I'll also throw it up on the social media. Do I see it? I don't see it. I don't see it. How bad is it to drive with a G1? That's going to be our closing question because we only have 2 minutes left, and I got more than 2 minutes to discuss it. How bad is it to drive alone as a G1? Well, you're not a licensed driver. You're not a licensed driver at all, because you're only a learner's permit. It's equivalent of the age-old 365 that is only in effect when you're being supervised by a qualified G. That's someone with at least 4 years experience and holds a full license. So, first of all, you're going to get a ticket for drive G1, drive unaccompanied. $110. Second, the person who let you drive unaccompanied is going to get a charge under the HT as well for permitting an unlicensed driver, someone who's violating their conditions, to drive a car. Then what happens next? Well, on conviction, you're going to get a 30-day suspension on your first conviction, a 90-day on your second, and you're going to get kicked out of the graduated licensing program on your third. What's next? Okay, in the event that you are involved in a motor vehicle collision, I have news for you. Your vehicle is not covered because you're not a licensed driver. So the company that insures your vehicle, whomever owns that vehicle, is going to reject your claims. You're not going to get coverage. So what have you done? You've taken a tremendous amount of risk. You're not a qualified driver. You're getting likely kicked out of the program at some point if you continue this behavior. And your car is just, finished. So, yeah, it's bad to drive alone as a G1. There's just no good way to make that case. Discord server, let's see if I can throw that onto the screen for everyone else. Hey, there's the Discord code. If you want to join our Discord server, have a look at the code on the screen. You can screen grab it and then join it and come talk to us. We have a community of people. This is more than just a show. It's a bunch of people who talk all the time, even if I'm not always talking. Have a great day. We'll be back tomorrow. That's the plan anyway. Back tomorrow to do this all again. If you have questions, if you've got comments. Yeah, if you got questions or comments, throw them into the Q&A or on comments to other videos or DM me. Say hey. We'll talk to you soon. Have a wonderful day, and 10 a.m. tomorrow is the plan.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.